Detroit, Michigan has experienced the largest and arguably the worst decline of a city in U.S. history. The city has yet to bottom out in its population declines. However, there has been some reinvestment and rebirth. But is it enough? Is it really getting better? This is what's happening to Detroit. Detroit, Michigan was once one of the largest and most powerful economic engines of the U.S. Its position of importance in the early auto industry would have it explode to over 1.8 million people by 1950. From 1950 on, though, a combination of job losses, political corruption, racial and social tension, outsourcing, poverty, and crime would cause and see to roughly 2/3 of the city's residents leave through today. Getting closer to the present day, though, the city would see several events that would only put an exclamation point on its decline. In 2009, two of Detroit's big three automakers would need a government bailout just to survive, and in 2013, Detroit would perhaps hit its symbolic bottom when it would declare bankruptcy with nearly $20 billion in debt brought on by its decline. The city would exit from its bankruptcy in 2014 with help from the state and a new debt plan. However, that didn't necessarily mean that the city was much better off. While the city, relatively speaking, bottomed out during the Great Recession and the period after, it was still left with the aftermath. After decades of population loss and abandonment, the area has been left with a checkered area of homes, businesses, abandoned buildings, and urban prairies. Having such a large land area where so many used to live, combined with so much derelict land that couldn't be maintained with the city's limited resources, has made any plans for redevelopment and revival difficult. Most of the city's more recent investment has gone into just two areas: the downtown and midtown. Since the turn of the century, several major projects have been completed in these two areas, such as the Detroit Riverwalk, Comerica Park and Ford Field, and several casinos, and later on, the nearly $1 billion Little Caesars Arena. Some businesses have moved more corporate and white-collar jobs downtown as well, and there has been a fair amount of new housing development. Crime has dropped and population losses have slowed. But with so many people having left the city, it's not inconceivable for this to occur. Tourism has become a major industry within Detroit, with nearly 16 million visiting a year, which helps bring external spending, so it has that going as well. But the question is, has this really made a real difference in Detroit? Is it really vastly better off and improved from before? The answer to that is kind of mixed. Detroit has probably seen its worst days pass, though that is safe to say in many Rust Belt cities. It still, however, lost more than 10% of its population in the 2010s decade, though, and is still losing people. It has been a little bit better maintained of late, with many abandoned buildings being torn down or redeveloped, though the vast shell of what once was is still very visible within the city. The problem with Detroit's redevelopment is, though, aside from these factors, is much of it is just localized movement. Things such as stadiums, arenas, and companies moving headquarters downtown are pretty much just things moving from one location to another within the Detroit metro, going from suburban to urban locations. A more genuine turnaround would see new companies come into the fold. Despite improvements downtown, there are still several vacant skyscrapers. It's also possible that the new Gordie Howe International Bridge coming up will pull a lot of border crossing traffic away from Detroit's downtown core. While things such as Michigan Central Station have seen redevelopment and investment, it's way too early to claim a turnaround for Detroit. While noticeably and markedly better than 10 or 15 years ago, results such as a stop in the population losses and more than just local investment will have to be seen to claim a real and sustainable turnaround for Detroit. Time will tell where it goes from here. Thank you for watching.